the kingdom of heaven is within us, but most people project it outwardly. But what Baba has done is to make us realize that it's the inward vision that is going to lead us to the realization that we're not the body, we're not the mind, we're not the intellect, we are the Atma, we are the spirit, we're the universal cosmic consciousness.
Indira Hewlett is the lab chief at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
I look at my work as a huge gift from Swami. He actually directed me to go into sciences. And the other thing he said, by the way, was enjoy these moments because the time is coming when Puttaparthi will be full of people from all over the world. And this was in the early 60s.
Yeah.
And there weren't many people from all over the world. We saw it happen. I wrote this letter to Baba. In the letter, I said, Swami, all I want is self-realization. My whole life is Baba. It was a huge transformation for me. Just seeing Baba as the light that runs this universe and the energy that runs this universe.
And the path that Indira found that helped her the most? The inward path.
So meditation has been a very important inner connection for me with Swami. He's come to me in dreams if I don't meditate for a few days, he'll come to me in a dream and say, you should meditate.
Welcome to Souljourns. This interview with Dr. Indira Hewlett was recorded on October 15th, 2022.
Yeah.
Indira Hewlett, thank you for joining us on Souljourns today. It's a pleasure to have a chance to speak with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the first thing I want to talk about is your busy career. I think I just heard you say you might be going on 38 years working for the Food and Drug Administration as a branch manager in Bethesda, Maryland. What a career must that be? How do you have time to have a side interest in spirituality?
First of all, Ted, thank you so much for having me here. I also want to offer my gratitude to Swami for bringing me to his fold. I was 6 years old when I first came to Swami. In regard to the question, yes, my job is just wonderful. I love it. Interestingly, it was Swami Sathya Sai Baba who led me to this job. Also, in terms of spirituality, it is my life. It is my work. It is part of everything. It's the underlying principle of my life.
Do you think of your career? I know it's a career, but fulfilling that requirement, that command of Baba's to do seva.
Yes, absolutely. And that's exactly what I was referring to when I said, it's my passion, my research and my work for the public health service. I look at my work as a huge gift from Swami. He actually directed me to go into sciences. I actually was very much involved with the very early days of the HIV epidemic. And it wasn't just laboratory work, but it was interacting with patients, activists and government officials, different government agencies, the industry, and of course we work in the blood area. So blood bank associations and so on. It was all a very eye-opening experience as to, how much you really need to be in the attitude of service. In fact, I will say that, the PCR testing that is very commonly talked about today was a very specialized technique back in the 80s when it was first published and was first discovered. And it was through some insights of people I worked with and of course ourselves as well to bring that technology to clinical labs and to blood donor testing and so on. And it just all fell into place and we were able to introduce it in public health labs. And so it was already set up so that when COVID came around, all they had to do was, come up with something specific for COVID. That was a nightmare. I mean, it's a pandemic. We hope it's behind us, but we know we're still grappling with it. So it was very easy to come up with tests for diagnosing the infection and so on. So it was service, you know. And then in 1981, I was working in England, and I took some time off, and I accompanied my mother to Prashanthi Nilayam. And I was going there for 3 weeks, and I ended up staying there for about 11 months. Amazing story. I resigned my job, and guess what I was doing?
I know what you were doing. You're being heavily involved, indoctrinated at his command into self-understanding, into spirituality, into meditation.
Exactly. Yes, I was there for 2 weeks, and we gave so our routine when we went to see Swami was to give him a letter or something, you know, that said we were leaving. Swami, let's have, you know, we want your blessings. Because he told us, you know, he would tell us when we should leave, right? So my mother had this habit of, well, she was of the opinion that we should not leave the ashram until we get some, you know, reinforcement from Swami. So here I was with my job back in London, and, you know, I'd taken 3 weeks off. And I said, well, but, you know, I have to get back to my job, you know, this very important job. And Swami would come in the line, he'd look at the letter, he wouldn't take it. Wait, stay. Well, my mother said, well, there must be something here. Baba is not allowing us to go, you know, to leave, for you to go back. So actually we stayed there, and I got into meditation. I love to meditate, but I was not doing it very systematically every day and so on and so forth, you know, but here was the opportunity to just plunge into it. And I can tell you, it was the best part of my life. If I have to relive something, it would be those 11 months, maybe 6 months in particular, where it was intense sadhana under Swami's, with Swami's blessing. You know, there were many indications that he was directing me in the meditations. The most important thing was that I asked him if I should do it by offering him a letter. I don't usually give letters to Swami, by the way, but he encourages us to write to him, as you know. And in fact, at the summer course, he told each of us, you know, he gave us a little visiting card, and he said, my address is on it, so you should write to me whenever you have, even if you don't have a problem. You know, Swami's lonely, write to me. So I wrote this letter to Baba, letting him, you know, in the letter I said, Swami, all I want is self-realization and liberation. You know, I offer you everything. I surrender everything, you know, the ego and so on and so forth. And there were a few other things in there. If you agree, please accept. He came over to me. I got the first row that day. He came over to me, stood there for quite some time, took his Pada Namaskar, and I gave him the letter, and he looked at me with such a beautiful smile. He says, very happy, and he took that letter. And after that, I got to work. I just went, you know, I said, Swami, you know, meditation. So it was many different meditations, but there was, they were all Sai meditations. And I can tell you that I came out of that place with my feet 6 feet above the ground, I would say. It was hard to adjust to this material life. But at that point, I had, you know, we're not supposed to hope, we're not supposed to expect as spiritual aspirants, right? We've surrendered everything to Swami. But if there was a tinge of something, it was that I wanted to be there, and I wanted to serve Baba and to spend my entire life as a sadhu. And Swami called us in for an interview, and we had 4 interviews on that visit. And on one of the interviews, the very first one, he told my mother, you know, I know everything that you both are talking about in the room. Of course, he knows everything, but he says, I know, she says, she wants only spiritual, no physical. She doesn't want to go back to America. You know, she wants to spend her whole life doing spiritual work. So that was, of course, he knows everything before we even think, he knows our thought, actually. Of course, he said, you have to balance. You have done your, he said a lot of wonderful things, validating my experiences on the spiritual level, and they were amazing. And that's what's kept me, my whole life is Baba. It was a huge transformation for me. Just seeing Baba as the light that runs this universe and the energy that runs this universe. Swami, of course, wants us to integrate all the different aspects of spirituality, which is devotion, dhyana, obviously, and service. Now, what he says is that for some people, the path is only jnana, and they go down that path and they practice that. Whereas for some others, it may be a combination of things. And he, in the Bharti ashram, of course, offers, all of the three wings that we have in the Sai centers, as you know. It's pretty much the same, isn't it? You have meditation, you have singing, there's a lot of devotional singing, and then there's opportunities for all kinds of service. So the difference, though, is that in Bhakti, if you are, I'm not saying that one is different or better or anything than the other. It depends on what one's primary interest is. If you're interested in integrating your spirituality into life, I think there's more that is offered in the setting of the millennium, Prashanti, where there are many opportunities there for hospital service and so on and so forth, and education of students and so on. But meditation and the inquiry path can be taken on in the Bhakti when you have he says not everybody's ready for that.
Yes.
So Baba was not the kind of guru who gave out mantras, and you notice that, and they are fine. Those gurus are good. But Baba wanted us to transform ourselves and through that process realize who we are. And his meditations, as you know, are fairly simple. The light and the Soham and so on, but they're very effective. What he wants us to do is to inquire, of course, because without inquiry, you really can't go far in spirituality, right? You've got to understand that what is born dies, that everything is ephemeral, transient in this universe. And even if we know it, to be consciously aware of that, every day, to be thankful for every day that's given to us.
But you put it well, the balance, integrating together the various paths to liberation. I'm just really impressed with what he has been capable of doing on a case-by-case basis with devotees like you and your mother. What did your mother think of that experience?
Yes, that's a very good question, because of course, being a mother, she was interested in making sure I'm taken care of in life, of course, get married and so on and so forth, and have a good education and so on. But she also knew that I had a very strong spiritual inclination. And she herself was, she was the one who actually taught me how to pray, and she, with meditation, and her whole life was dedicated to Swami. Swami was her life. So she was an inspiration to me, and her qualities as a human being, compassionate and kind. And my children, they just totally love grandmother, because grandmother was the kindest being they ever knew. I mean, she was a very good human being. So that aspect of it, I think, was important in my life, because she gave me the opportunity to understand how important it was to have human values, as well as to know who God really is and who we really are. So she was there for the 11 months with me. Never once asked me why I was meditating. Never once asked me what was going on, that I'd given up my job. Never once asked me that
That's
question.
amazing.
Whatever Swami, it was just, she's totally surrendered to Swami. So whatever Swami said, that's what we do.
I'll bet she was delighted that you were under his thumb. And
Yes,
and,
yes,
stayed
And
so
Swami,
relentlessly faithful to his command, which leads me to another question. I worked in my last job for 38 years before I retired. You're in close proximity to the number of years that you've worked with this wonderful position in the federal government that you've had with the FDA. And I'm wondering one day, if you decide to have a change of pace in your life, how much or how little of the training and the awareness that Baba brought to you about the path to, let's say it's the most direct path to realizing the truth of who you are, that you might give to that subject rather than to take on other chores in your retirement?
it's my path every day. I do, and so I'm hoping it'll be a lot more, and that perhaps even, being able to share it with our fellow devotees. We do, we are active in study circles and so on and so forth, and meditation is a very important aspect. We'd like to bring that back to the side groups, to go inward, because, Swami says he's not in the body anymore, but he's everywhere. We know that, those of us who have given our all to Swami, or who see Swami as everything in their life. It was that year that I spent with Swami. I said, whatever you want me to do, Baba, that's what I will do. So when he told me I said, I'll take whatever you give me. I surrender my everything, and so on and so forth. And of course, he had a very mischievous smile when he said, yes.
Oh, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did.
Yes. So of course, having the job has been fun, but it's of course had its challenges. Living life has been fun. Of course, it's had its challenges. But Baba is always there to work them out, if we turn towards him. So meditation has been a very important inner connection for me with Swami throughout the years. He's come to me in dreams if I don't meditate for a few days, he'll come to me in a dream and say, you should meditate.
Does he go like this to you?
And one time he said he'll show me a different type of meditation if I want to do that. So I'm just waiting, I go inward and say, when you're ready, show me this new meditation. Well, I hope to do more of it, yes.
Well, clearly you're his student, as was your mother and as are others, because he advised you and your family to turn towards profound spiritual matters of life in conjunction, as you said, with career and duty. He would often say, and I've heard people say this for a long time, I'm trying to remember if I actually heard him voice these words myself. I may have, and that is to look beyond the form. I have heard him say, I've read where he has said, don't follow this form, meaning his own divine form. And to look beyond the form presumes that people will be turning more and more to what you've been practicing now since decades ago, the inward spiritual journey of self-investigation. What does that mean to you, to look beyond his form?
So that became very clear to me in my 1 year there, that the form is there only for us to be inspired and to love and to use as our motivation for inward, for an inward look. Because as Swami says, everything that's created has a name and a form. So if you want to go to the formless, you should use the name and the form but use the name and form of a highly elevated being, such as Swami, and attach to that form. And as you attach to the form melts, you become part of the formless divinity of that form. So, if you know what I mean. So, in terms of the formless, that is the ultimate, that is the end all of everything. Um, and to look beyond the form and look for the formless it's really not that difficult. However, we do need to work on our inner or outer impulses, the senses, the waywardness of the mind, all of these things. We have to constantly watch our thoughts, our character, our heart, our action, the acronym WATCH, and our words. So this is the challenge when you bring, it's not the challenge, but it is the test. You may be the most realized spiritual being, or you may simply be a very wonderful spiritual being. When you come to the real world and you start living life, you practice what you've learned and what you have experienced. That's the true test. And that is what Swami wants us to be ideal beings, is to realize who we are and bring that knowledge and that experience to our daily living. And that's why he's so focused on young people, to make sure that they are put into that sort of that the path of realization. I don't mean going to the mountain and, doing tapas and so on, but to do enough. And, he says it's in today's Kali Yuga, just doing Namasmarana with a pure heart and with love, will grant you the vision of the Lord. So the vision of the Lord is what's inside us. And if anyone has done serious inward looking and visioning, you will see that the universe is within us, We are a microcosm. There's so much within us.
Indira, I'd like to pick up on a word you just said a second ago in conjunction with your story, the youth of today, bombarded by more distractions than anybody's ever known of in human history, I'm sure. And their attention span is close to zero. And that goes for the majority of people. How do you find hope when so many people are influenced by these crosswinds of distracting thoughts and ideas?
Well, of course, the future of humanity is in our young people, no question. But we as elders, I think, have a responsibility to guide our young people. There's going to be more and more technology. There's no question about that. It's going to be one thing leading to the other. So I think the values that Swami has taught us and the methods, keeping good company. The technology is not bad. It's just using it for the right things. Moderation, we can't stop them from using technology, but the hope is that it will be used for good things. It'll be used for education. It'll be used for information sharing, good information, that's going to make this world a better place. And of course, to spread the message of love. It isn't a particular teacher or philosophy. It's just being loving towards each other. So I feel there is actually, while there's a lot of negativity coming up, I think there's a lot of positivity as well that's balancing out the, what we're seeing as negative impacts of technology. But I'm hopeful. I, of course, always have hope. And we have the avatars who are guiding us. And it's only a matter of time before things get, take a turn. They're already taken a turn.
And finally, the story of how Indira first came to Sai Baba's side.
You mentioned you came to Baba when you were 6. I remember a few things from when I was 6. Do you remember fondly or not so fondly your first meeting with Sai Baba?
Very fondly. Yeah, I do remember the meeting very, very well. And it was in the early 61, sometime then, that we went to see Swami.
I want to ask you another question about this. It's a little off the wall, but I can't resist it. This would have to be a candid response on your part. I don't expect great detail, but you're a scientist. How do you reconcile these things happening in people's lives?
Of course, back then I wasn't a scientist, although I was only 6 years old. But yeah, we can talk about that. So, of course, Baba, the first interview was wonderful, as you asked me. Very fond memories of that. I had many personal experiences, Baba doing certain things in my life, even as a young person, because at that very young age, you're more interested in visual things, like Baba would materialize Amrita from his, the nectar that he gives people. It's called the nectar of immortality, which he materializes. So I've seen that. I've seen certain other materializations that he gave us. He gave us a pendant and different various other things. So those were all amazing. But the most amazing thing was how he knew exactly what you were thinking. And, even for a little child, it was quite amazing, So I developed faith in Swami. It wasn't just, oh, my mom wanted me to Puttaparthi to see this guru. And Swami was extremely loving and very kind, very funny, lots of jokes. And we had interviews with just the three of us, my mother, my brother, and I. So we were very intimate, very personal, and there were a lot of jokes. And he would always tell us, enjoy these times because when I'm not around, I want you to think about these moments and feel my presence. That's why I'm giving you so much love, because you've been with, he said we had been with him over in many lifetimes, many incarnations and so on. And that he brought us early in his avatarhood to share love and so on and so forth. So, and the other thing he said, by the way, was enjoy these moments because the time is coming when Puttaparthi will be full of people from all over the world. And this was in the early 60s.
Yeah.
And there weren't many people from all over the world. We saw it happen, as a scientist. When we look around, we see how amazing creation is. Look at the human body. There's tons of genes, enzymes, all kinds of things that are working in harmony. The fact is that just looking around at creation is enough to prove to us that, there's a force that's bigger than us.
Yeah.
That's what we call, when we follow religion, each of us is in, following some type of religion. If you're religious and if you're not, so be it. But, when you think about the fact that we are presented the concept of a higher power and God, we always think about it as something outside,
Yeah.
Oh, it's the kingdom of heaven is within us. Yes. But, that's true. But most people project it outwardly, But
Exactly.
what Baba has done is to make us realize that we have to go in, that it's the inward vision that is going to lead us to the realization that we're not the body, we're not the mind, we're not the intellect, we are the Atma, we're the spirit, we're the universal cosmic consciousness.
Baba had a big hand, as you said at the outset, from guiding you on many levels, spiritually and professionally, by pointing out the direction of America for you to go there and to start working in the field of science, which you dutifully did. He's reminded you of that in person, apparently, several times. Did you ever have second thoughts as you were growing into maturity of having a different career, wholly different outside of the field of science? Or did you just dutifully follow his command?
So in our early interviews, Baba would talk to us about, of course, our education and, that we should study hard, that we should listen to our mother. She was a very good mother, and he said, always obey her. She knows what's best for you. That was one thing. And he would always ask us about our progress in school. So he was very interested in the material education side of it. But over time, he switched to talking about spirituality. And he would talk about the Atma. He would tell us, ask us different questions like the self-inquiry process. Do you know who you are? Do you know where you came from? So he would put all these questions. And of course, nobody knows anything, right? Except Swami. So we said, well, Swami, we're all from you. He said, yes, but do you know you have to realize that? And he actually pushed meditation as I won't say push, but he was very interested in at least the three of us in pursuing the path of meditation. So of course, service is always there, but that we were ready for that type of activity. For one of the interviews, he created a medallion, gave it to my mother, and told her she should use it for meditation, placing it on her third eye. Also use it for her health, to put water on it and then drink the water, because she was not keeping very good health at the time. Of course, she lived to be 80 years old, so he did take care of her on all fronts. But because of this discussion on meditation, and he would ask us, how we were doing. He went over the mantras, what mantras are we doing, and so on and so forth. And my mother told him about the one she was using. And she also asked him whether it was okay to use the Namasmarana of Om Sri Sai Ram. And Swami said, that's very nice. You should do that. It's a very good mantra. So, so these are things I kind of was hearing, as a child. I must have been 8 or 9 years old then. And we used to do meditation. We did bhajans as well, because Swami told us that we should engage in, or we should perform bhajans every evening. And if we couldn't do it every evening as a family, we should at least do it on Thursdays, because Thursday was a very special day for Sai Baba. So we did that when we were growing up as much as possible. So we learned all the bhajans. And it was great fun. The three of us would sing as a family for about 15-20 minutes. But it sort of planted the seed, for a spiritually clean, pure existence, at least in me.
On that positive note, and I share it with you completely too, so much was said. It's going to take me a while to digest it. And I hope others appreciate it as much as I do, because you told some whoppers, some real great stories that I think now, in the absence of Baba's physical form on this earth, can only help everybody who's exposed to the ideas and stories that you've shared with us. Thank you, Indira Hewlett, very much for being with us on Souljourns today. God bless you, and Sai Ram.
Thank you. Thank you, Ted. Sai Ram.